Thank you, Chair. We're live.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Rachel. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Economies, Residents and Community Scrutiny Committee today, Monday, the 15th of July. I'm Councillor Angela Davis, the chair of this committee. So we'll start our agenda with apologies. Any apologies today, Rachel?
Apologies received from Councillor Liz and Councillor Peter.
Lovely. Thank you very much. And we've got some changes to our committee membership now. So I just want to pass my thanks on to Councillor Adrian Jones, a previous member of this committee, for his active involvement in the group, and to welcome our brand new county councillor, John Yeomans. Welcome to ERC committee, and also to Councillor Graham Breeze. Welcome, Graham. Good to have you both with us.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 2, any disclosures of interest today? So from members of the committee, any disclosures of interest relating to items to be considered in this meeting? Okay, so we'll take silence to mean no. And item 3, declarations of party whips. So to receive disclosures of prohibited party whips which a member has been given in relation to the meeting in accordance with section 78(3) of the local government measure. And again, I'll take silence to be a no. So next item on the agenda, item 4, is the election of our vice chair. And I believe we've had 2 members indicate an interest in this role, both of whom will need a seconder. So we have Councillor Gary Mitchell and Councillor Carl Lewis. So can I have do we have a seconder for Councillor Gary? We do. Councillor Chloe. Thank you, Chloe. And do we have a seconder for Councillor Carl?
Yeah, I'll second.
We do. Lovely. Councillor Graham Breeze. So I think we go straight to a vote. Am I right, Rachel, here? Do we take them one at a time and a show of hands?
If you're happy with a show of hands, Chair, yes.
Everybody happy to do that?
Sorry, could I just vote verbally?
Of course you can, Corinna. Yeah, we appreciate your remote and having some difficulties with your IT there, so that'd be perfect. So Councillor Gary, can I have a show of hands for Councillor Gary, please? Okay, Rachel's doing the tally there, I'm sure. Lovely, thank you very much. And a show of hands for Councillor Carl, please. Are you able to tally those, Rachel? Has everybody had the chance to vote?
Can I ask Councillor Karina which she'd like to vote for?
Gary, please.
And
Okay,
yourself,
so
Chair?
Oh, have I got to make the deciding vote? Oh, that's tricky.
It's
So,
3 apiece, sorry.
3 apiece. Okay, there we are. Well, this is a really tricky one. So I'm actually going to vote for Councillor Gary, but I want to thank Councillor Carl for all his hard work for supporting me as vice chair last year. But I know last year, Councillor Carl, you did say to me you were happy to stand as vice chair, but you weren't bothered either way. And on this occasion, it's only actually Councillor Carl that contacted me to express his interest in the role. So purely based on that, and with no disrespect to you, I can't vote you both in. But thank you very much. So thank you, Councillor Carl and Councillor Gary.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving on to the minutes of the previous meeting, which was from the 18th of March. If we've got a copy there, I trust you've all read them. But the substantive item there was a report from Housing. We made 5 comments. We felt it was a positive report. And we also had updates from the joint scrutiny group, which was the leisure review group. And I think it's probably important to say there that those minutes, I'm just going to bring them up. The first line there in those minutes about the leisure review, I think it's really important that we make that point, that the working group reviewed the processes undertaken and not the next steps or the outcome of the leisure review. So the joint working group's role was to look at the processes in which the council officers would be looking at the leisure review. And this committee or that joint working party actually did make some recommendations and notes that are there in the minutes. And we also had the notes from the ERC working group in the House. And I think members of both of those groups felt that those were really useful and positive working groups. I want to thank everybody for their work on those. So do members of this committee have any questions or comments to make on those minutes, or are you happy to accept them as a true record? I'm getting a couple of nods, so we'll take it that you're happy to accept those. Thank you very much. So now on to item 5. Sorry, that was item 5. Now on to item 6, which is to receive the customer service review provided by Helen Domain. She's the Senior Manager, Customer Service and Information Governance. So we're on pages 13 to 22 of the full pack, and I'll hand over to you, Helen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. It took me a moment to unmute myself there.
No problem.
Rachel, do you want me to share my presentation?
Yes, please, if you could, Helen.
Okay,
Thank
just
you.
bear with me for a moment.
Yeah, we can see that, Helen. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you. Just move my notes over. Good morning. This is a briefing into where we are currently with the rather than customer services review, perhaps a customer experience update. A review of our customer services was undertaken through spring and summer 23 by a company BetterGov to ascertain the views of our residents over the customer service they receive from the council, to establish the level of service they expect, and to inform us on new improved models of service delivery. It should be noted that this wasn't a review into just our customer services team, but a review into the delivery of customer service across the organisation. As such, the implementation of the changes required are across the organisation and not just the customer services team or the libraries who undertake face-to-face services too. So BetterGov defined our customers as any person who makes contact with the council where they are making an inquiry or responding to a communication from the council in a personal capacity, including service users, a representative of a company, an individual business person, or a professional from a partner organisation. So we can see that our customers are wide-ranging in terms of their service needs, their preferred contact methods, and we understand and we know that our population of older people is expected to rise by 15% by 2039. This all builds into the further research that BetterGov undertook, and they undertook this through various methods: telephone calls to residents, face-to-face conversations with residents, staff questionnaires, staff and customers of PCC, business questionnaires, face-to-face meetings with library staff, and meetings arranged with staff from a number of service areas, and also the information that the council itself was able to provide, so data provided by the council. So over 1,000 members of the public were surveyed by BetterGov, and the findings of this research in the report were varied in terms of customer preferred contact methods and levels of customer satisfaction. Also indicated the levels of staff satisfaction with the services they provide. The report findings provided important insights for us and information and recommendations informing further work streams. And through this, we have our 2 service objectives that build into the council's corporate plan objective, which that we will improve people's awareness of services, how to access them so they can make informed choices. So as I said, the service have put 2 objectives forward. The first of these being that objectives will enable us to build on that work already done with Better Gov and what we've done ourselves, in that we will develop a customer experience strategic framework explaining our vision for our customer interaction, constructed around the agreed themes and principles. The second objective continues with the planning for an efficient and effective services built around those principles, but which are tailored around the needs of our customers. Recently, we've introduced an improved direct dial number for our out-of-hours calls, which provides better messaging and more comprehensive reports from our monitoring centre. So just because the dates are 25 and 26 doesn't mean to say we're not doing anything. We're continually building on improving our customer services. We've reviewed our Blue Badge documentation and applications, ensuring that those who are not able to or choose not to make their applications digitally are reminded about how manual applications can be made. We've started a short exercise to inform a review of the council's auto-attendant calling system, with a view to improving the success rate of calls made in reaching the correct recipient without the need for contact centre intervention. Release details of our investment in customer service qualifications, which again is not just for customer services staff, but for all staff who interact with our customers. And we've tested some draft customer experience principles through the Sustainable Powers forum meetings, and I'll discuss those in future slides. As part of our current customer experience, we've looked at some of the numbers of our customer contacts. The telephone contacts of 86,790 in 12 months are only for our customer services contact centre. They do not include any of the other customer contact centres, such as income and awards, assist, or calls made directly. So there is still an awful lot of information there that isn't accounted for and what we don't know yet. These figures don't include email or Facebook Messenger queries either, which the contact centre deal with also in addition to the 3,032 web chats a year. So these numbers demonstrate a high volume of contacts through the year and show the various methods our customers use to contact, with 901,000 website visitors, 74,000 connected online web accounts, My Powers accounts, and 129,000 forms completed online. However, this slide also tells us that there's so much we don't yet know. As I said, such a number of calls coming through other contact centres and direct calls through to staff and face-to-face contacts within libraries, all in which would in turn allow us to analyse reasons for peaks and troughs of contact and establish greater knowledge around our customer satisfaction. So research shows that our customers want a service tailored to their needs, and not all our customers will want to or are able to interact with us in the same way, nor at the same time of day, or even the same time of the working week. Leveraging our technology can enhance our ability to meet all our customers' expectations. Whilst acknowledging that not everyone prefers digital services, the strategic use of technology allows us to allocate those resources that we do have more efficiently. This slide shows the timeline of activity to date. So we see February to July 23, the Better Services, Better Gov's customer service review. Between September and November, we took some work on action planning. The report was drafted. However, in hindsight and through further development, we felt that this should be undertaken under a strategic framework to give us something to hang all our work from. So through February and May, we've developed and drafted customer experience principles around some themes, and those have been tested, and the public have been consulted through the Sustainable Powers forums. Obviously, June, we're in the position now where we're ongoing and we're continuing to work forward. So these are our draft customer experience principles. And as I say, they are built around 8 customer experience themes of people. This considering how our customers should be first and foremost in our minds, in our service delivery, our design and our interactions. To build a customer first culture throughout the organization so that excellent customer experience is everyone's responsibility, not just the customer services team. Engagement and communication, to ask and seek customer input and really listen to the responses that we're given. Places, to ensure that our customers know what services are available, from where and how they can access them in ways that suit them. Digital technology, to ensure that digital technology is exploited safely and ethically for the benefit of our customers. Delivery, to ensure that we're able to meet our customers' expectations and deliver on their needs throughout their journey, or even at the first point of contact. Performance insights, understanding the customer experience data that can be pulled from across the organization and use them to understand how well we are or aren't doing, to include KPIs and customer satisfaction tools that then allow us to build, improve, redesign. Governance, to enable oversight and ownership into our delivery of an excellent customer experience and improved customer journeys, and to be able to hold the organization accountable to improvements required. And finally, our customer themselves. As it's important that the customer knows what to expect from us, then the customer needs to be clear as what we expect from them, such as in terms of providing accurate information to changes, behavior towards staff. So those are the draft customer experience principles, and those are the ones that have been tested through the sustainability forums. So 90% of residents either or respondents rather, either agreed or strongly agreed with those draft customer experience principles. Place was the strongest agreed principle at 97%. But that was closely followed by people, engagement and communication and governance. The digital technology principle attracted the highest number of respondents in disagreement with the principle at 22%. But 18% of those responded were also quite neutral in relation to the response by a digital technology principle. The principle had the highest number of comments against it, indicating that their concerns over digital becoming the only way services are delivered, and over people who are not able to use digital technology, either through digital literacy or availability. So these customer experiences and this feedback received would suggest that the delivery of a customer experience based on these themes and principles is a step in the right direction, including that of listening to our customers and understanding what it is they do and do not want. For the final slide, I know Ellen would like to speak to this final slide rather than myself. So if it's okay, Chair, I'll swap with Ellen.
Yes, of course. Thank you. Welcome,
Thank
Ellen.
you.
Ellen struggling with her screen. can see you, Ellen, but I can't hear you. So you're on mute. No, afraid I still can't hear you, but I can see your mute is off. So something else is not working. Anybody got some IT tips there for Alan? I'm afraid I'm not the best to guide you there.
She's just asked you, Helen, if you could continue, please. You're on mute, Helen.
Thanks, Rachel. Yeah, I just messaged her myself to say, do you want me to take over? Okay.
Oh, it's typical, isn't it? The IT lets you down just at that moment. I mean, we can see you there, Ellen. We know you're trying.
Yeah. From Ellen's perspective as the head of digital, obviously she's got responsibilities for the customer services and customer experience, but also the digital and the AI, etc. So I think from Ellen's perspective, difficult word to say this morning, she was looking to perhaps culminate these strategies all together, a digital strategy, a customer experience strategy, an automation framework, and a data framework, to ensure that there is a consistent approach to the way that we build our services, we build our digital around our customers, and that bringing all those elements together, so we're all working in one direction within digital services and across the organization. So the digital strategy, she was looking to look on digital transformation channels. Sorry, just heard the doorbell go. Technologies and an online presence. So building on those that we've already put into place. Detailing our automation tools, our AI tools, etc., and to build a framework for our use of data, which I indicated previously for the customer experience. Our data is going to tell us an awful lot, but ensuring that our data covers data governance, our analytics abilities, privacy and ethics and security in all of that, in terms of our use of the information that we hold as a council, to ensure that we're using it correctly and for the benefit of not just ourselves, but our communities and our residents as well. So from Ellen's perspective, she was looking to integrate these components and to align, she said, to align their efforts, optimize resource allocation and drive successful outcomes. I'm sure she'll probably provide further information if she can come online. But yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can, Ellen. Yes.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, sorry about that. Oh, sorry about that. Sorry, I left and rejoined, so I don't want to kind of repeat too much, but I think for me, this last kind of slide, what we were trying to capture here is that I think you heard Helen throughout the presentation talk about only seeing part of the picture, where we talked about some of the kind of figures about this is what one contact kind of centre sees. What we need to do is have that overarching view of our kind of customers. We've got an idea and we've got the view, but they sit in a little bit of kind of silos at the moment. So looking at that's where we changed the direction in terms of, instead of looking at individual contact centres and customer services within them, actually we should be looking from a customer experience point of view. So no matter where the touch points are, so no matter where our customers come into us, they should all get the same service from us. And this slide here is about having that corporate standard of customer expectations, having key performance indicators that go across every service that our customers interact with us, as opposed to having individual ones. So that's why we're taking that approach in terms of saying, okay, we need to look at customer experience rather than customer services. And just to capture then the kind of 3 strategies there, which is we've got the digital strategy, automation framework, and the data framework as well. So because all of these come under my portfolio now at the moment, all of them needs to be reviewed. And actually, when you think about the automation framework, when you think about digital, and when you think about data, it's all about our kind of customers and what they want. So we've been doing quite a bit of work in the background looking at, okay, let's not have 4 individual strategies or frameworks that sit on the shelf. Let's just have one. They all have the customer at the heart, and we should be looking at what digitally we can do to improve the services and how we can do that through AI, and also what we can use the data for as well. So that's where we are at the moment. And I think what's key to say as well, some of the data set Helen talked about earlier on, which was March 25 and March 26 as well. There's a lot of work, and hopefully that came through in terms of what we have been working on over the last year or so. But there's a lot of work that we're currently doing now. So it's not as if we're just waiting for those dates. I'm really sorry if I repeated what Helen just said there. Yeah, and apologies, I couldn't get my headset working, Chair. So
that's absolutely fine, Ellen. We all struggle from time to time with the technology, but I think you've got the message across there now. So if you're happy to take that, oh, lovely, already gone down, I'll open the floor to members for their questions. So Councillor Graham, first off the block.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Helen, and eventually Ellen. I'm really pleased with the last slide to see that customer experience is the key for an equal customer experience, because I'm just going to touch on some personal experience that I think we're not quite there yet. I'm aware, and I'm sure we're all aware, that we've made huge strides in our technical advances, our online services, making better use of technology, and we do have a much improved web presence. But despite assurances that those who are not comfortable online would not be disadvantaged and left behind, I do feel that's just what we are doing still. The biggest complaint I get as a councillor from my residents is they still just can't reach the person or department they need to reach, and certainly not in a timely manner if they do get through. If they feel more comfortable using a telephone than a computer, they feel that they are being left behind. And I'm told that residents would not report any improvements in the time spent hanging on before a telephone call is answered. So I'm disappointed to see really that we will have to wait until March 2026 just for the completion of a review before considering what options really need taking. And I'd like to see this brought forward if possible. It's still a very long way away. And I think that while you present impressive figures about the customer experiences, I would like to see them benchmarked against other authorities, because to me, I don't really know if they are good or bad, if they're representative of how other authorities are performing. And I would be much happier to see that. So thank you. But thank you very much for both for a very thorough presentation.
Okay. Ladies, would you like to make any comment? Yeah, Ellen?
Yeah, please, if I can. Thank you very much, Councillor Breeze. Yeah, I think what I just really want to emphasise, I think some of the things that you explained there, we also have that feedback as well. In terms of those dates, like I said before, we are definitely going to be doing work, which actually that's a kind of end date, really. Well, I say end date, our customers always, their expectations change. So it'll be a continually ensuring that we meet their kind of needs. I can kind of guarantee that there'll be changes and improvements during the months over the next couple of years as well. I think when we tested the principles, I think it was really key that we actually had that bit of feedback to say that our residents are a bit nervous about digital. And I think Helen mentioned as well in terms of ensuring that when we do put our services out digitally, that there's definitely alternatives for people to reach us. I think it's making sure that when we do put those changes on, that it's definitely known in terms of how they can contact in alternative ways. But another key piece of work which didn't come into this, but does impact this because it's on the digital side, is that we're actually just starting to work with town and community councils at the moment in putting on digital skills within the communities. So it's not only about putting digital services out there, it's also about improving the skill sets of our residents as well and getting into the hubs, especially alongside sustainable Paris as well. So we're looking at a program of work to roll that out, so it'll hopefully make people feel a lot more comfortable interacting with us as well. There's a lot of work happening, and they're all there's lots of prongs really, but I do hear what you say, and it is something that we're continually considering, because we do need to make sure that we don't exclude anybody and all our customers feel they can access us in an equal way. So thank you for kind of bringing that up, and we will take that away.
What about, can I just ask, come back on that, what about the benchmarking, Ellen? Any hope of that?
Yes, I think there's definitely benchmarking figures that we can use. I think with any benchmark, it always comes a little bit difficult because it depends in terms of other local authorities and how much they've digitized and how their customers interact with them, so it's always hard to do that
like with like, really.
Yeah, it does become kind of difficult. When we did look at it, we looked at it a couple of months ago, and it got a little bit kind of difficult, but it is something that's on our radar in terms of actually when there are councils which are in the same situation as us, and actually Powers has digitized quite a lot of its kind of services, that we will be able to benchmark then.
Thank you.
Lovely, thank you. Councillor Chloe.
Thank you, Angela, and thank you for the presentation as well. Really interesting to see some of the information that's coming through on there. Some sort of kind of maybe basic questions, and I do apologise if I missed them. My connection was a bit dodgy at the beginning, but for me, when we do sort of a customer service review, it's quite a good way to identify the strengths and weaknesses of the service. Obviously, people come to Powys Council with lots of different questions, and I wondered whether there were some areas that the council were performing better in terms of their customer experience than others, just to identify where it needs more focus perhaps, and where within the council ourselves we can learn from other departments. So that was my first question. I wanted to just get a bit of feedback about that, if that came through the engagement exercises. And then also I wanted to ask about the objectives. It was good to see the times associated with them around March 2025 and then March 26. Is there a longer term plan for keeping on top of this? So are we doing sort of annual reviews and feedbacks, or is there a consistent mechanism to allow customers and service users to engage with us and feedback on a sort of more regular basis? Or do we have any sort of longer timelines of what we're going to do to continue to keep our customer service as good as it possibly can be?
Thank you. Is it okay, Chair, if I come in there?
Yes, please do, Ellen. Yeah, thank you.
Helen, I'm going to pick up the second point, and I'm going to leave the first question to you. I think it's a very good point. And the work that we're doing at the moment is, when I talk about looking at the digital and the AI and the data strategy and customers as well, one thing we're working on at the moment is almost like a blueprint of customer experience. And the reason behind that is strategies go out of date the minute you write them, and customers' expectations change monthly depending usually on if they've signed up to a new kind of shopping app, which actually is brilliant, and why hasn't Powys County Council got that? So in providing a blueprint for our customers, it's actually looking at principles and expectations, and that blueprint ensures that customer feedback and that engagement is at the heart of everything that we do. So that's another reason why we didn't just want to go down the route of saying, well, actually we've got a strategy here, this is what we're going to do, we're going to answer the phone at this time, because that that doesn't reflect the organisation that we are and how we need to interact. So thanks for kind of raising that, because that's exactly the conversations we've had. And it's much more about a blueprint to keep it fresh, keep it kind of current, make sure we have that continued feedback. We have feedback kind of mechanisms now. Our customers feedback to us. We are looking at improving that at the moment. We're undertaking a customer review on the My Powis account. We've had My Powis account for quite a few years now. We haven't had a full robust review on that. So we're taking that on board and also asking our customers as well, what else do they want to see from us? So it's key for us to make sure we have that customer interaction, that feedback, and by creating that blueprint, which has got those principles and the way we actually respond, will create that. Hopefully that's answered that question. I see if Helen, I'm referring to you because I know you're much more involved in the review. So are you on mute, Helen?
That famous phrase. Over to you, Helen.
There we go. Sorry, it took a couple of clicks to unmute. Thank you, Helen. Thank you, Chair. In response to the first question, which was about understanding our strengths and what we're currently doing quite well and what we're doing not so well on, the review undertaken by BetterGov did sort of try and analyse the responses in relation to different services, which services seemed to come out well, which services didn't. So we have some data into that and ideas of which services perhaps need to build on customer services, but understanding perhaps what might be behind some of the rationales and reasoning for the satisfaction levels given. Additionally, we undertake an examination of our customer, the corporate complaints every year. And that's something I've been doing separately to this, but that report is just coming to a conclusion now. So we've been examining the complaints received, which services, reasons, etc., and we're trying to understand what we've learned from those corporate complaints, so that work will go hand in hand in understanding where we've got issues, what those issues are, and as a separate piece of work, we're trying to do some work in learning more from our corporate complaints and are able to report on those. So the services are receiving that information in much improved timelines and reporting systems, so that they will go hand in hand. Does that answer that response, that first question?
That's great. I guess just the bit about whether departments can learn from each other as well, so we can do some stuff internally. Just to not a question really, just to sort of raise that as there might be some things that we're already doing really well that could just be passed on to other departments. Thank you very much.
Could I just pick up on the second question as well, if that's okay, Chair? In terms of we don't want this to just be one piece of work and then not continue to build and learn and change as our customers change. I mean, I mentioned before about an aging population and their abilities to use digital or their choice to use digital. When I'm thinking about this, I think about myself as well. Another 15 years, I will be in that aging population. I am in that aging population. So my digital skills, etc., I bring with them. And so we will see our customers change over those years. And it's important that we change too. And that was one of the reasons for the governance principle, to hold us accountable, and so that we keep on building on what we know, what we learn, and what we need to do and keep on doing. So thank you, Chair.
Can I just add in there that we shouldn't automatically assume that our older population aren't willing to take on the digital. My mother-in-law is up there and she'll have a go at anything, and
my mum too.
Always slip into that mistake. Sometimes it can be our own generation, isn't it, that are the most wary of change. Be stuck in our ways. But anyway, Councillor Rafe.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you both for the presentation. It's really informative. Just building on the points there about digitalisation, I think, let's be honest, the majority of people are, more digital than ever, and it will continue to go that way. However, I do believe it's really important that we maintain that personal interaction and the in-person customer service. Whether that's for people with disabilities, elderly people, or just anybody who would rather speak to someone than either go on their phone, or actually pick up and go on a call. And obviously we've seen huge changes, haven't we? Certainly over the last 5 years, accelerated by COVID, that has seen our offices closed. And not too long ago, that's where the majority of people would go to access council services and customer services. And obviously because a number of those offices haven't reopened, people assume that there is now nowhere to go. And I am aware that a number of residents, and I include myself in this until only recently, we weren't actually aware that there was anywhere to go to get an in-person customer service experience. And I think it's great that they're now being delivered from the libraries. That makes absolute sense. But I think the council really needs to do more to publicise that and make people aware, and even go as far as to where those customer service points used to be, where they were in towns, the majority of which would have been the council offices, have signage there to say, this is now not a public, a customer service point. Please make your way to your local library, because certainly I know of at least one council office which is now not open to the public, that doesn't have any signage. So I think that's really important. And then secondly, on those in-person interactions, that they are measured as well. And I appreciate that it's easier to measure digital interactions, but we want to make sure, it's in our interest that we have consistency in terms of our quality of provision. So, finding a way to incorporate those in-person interactions into your statistics, which were great and really informative, but they all centered around a digital experience. Whilst I do believe that we're obliged to provide in-person interaction, and that there will continually be a requirement for that, even as we become even more digital. Some people will always need, and it might even be a matter of preference, that they go and speak to someone in person. So I think it's really important that we maintain that. And then finally, Chair, there was the mention of AI. Now, obviously this is consistent with a number of customer service provisions in different sectors. I just think we need to be really careful, because, and I'm sure it makes financial sense to implement a pure AI system where you don't where you can then save on not having to have an in-person conversation with someone. However, I think I can say that we've all experienced AI customer service systems, and they're extremely frustrating. They can very rarely actually deliver what you need them to do. And so I do think it's really important that we don't lose that personal touch, which is ultimately, that's what's generating, I think it was nearly an 85% excellent or good approval rating, which is absolutely commendable. And so I think just when we're considering further transformation into artificial intelligence, we need to be aware of what people are experiencing with those systems elsewhere before we implement them, and the impact that could have on our customer experience. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. I'm not sure there's a question as such in there. Was there for you, Ellen or Helen? Is there any comment you'd like to make?
I just kind of completely agree with what you just reflected there, Councillor Rafe. I think in terms of the properties, I know we are working with property services at the moment. I know Helen was down Brecon, I think a couple of weeks ago, looking at the signage. I think it is something that we do need to look at, like you said, in terms of making sure that if people do turn up somewhere that they've used to go, and we're not offering a face-to-face service there anymore, it's made clear. So we are doing some work with property around that. And as and when properties, as and when we might close buildings down and new buildings pop up, we need to make sure that the comms to our kind of residents is very clear and very key there. I just, there was nothing to kind of disagree with what you said. I completely agreed with everything, really. There was a final point that you were making then I wanted to comment on, and it's completely gone out my mind about digital. AI, yeah, that was it. Thank you, Chair. It's my age. No, I think this is something we are very kind of going into very careful. The ethics around AI is so key for us. I sit on the WLGA digital advisory board, so all the digital heads of digital across local authorities sit on that, and we're still waiting for Welsh kind of government to give us some clear guidance and ethics around the use of AI, because everybody's using it, they're dipping their toe into it. There's great stuff it can do, but we're all very conscious and cautious about it as well. So that's hence we have got an automation framework that we've adopted in the council now, but it is something that everything that we build, we need to ensure we're doing it for the right reason. That is a very important factor for us that we do consider, and it is something that as we roll out more sophisticated AI, we need to engage our residents with that and make sure it's safe, and we're rolling it out for the right reasons. And just in terms of a lot of the AI that we're talking about at the moment, it ultimately will give the customer a better experience for those who choose to go down that route. Because what will happen, they might start on a chatbot, and if the chatbot's not answering, you just say you're not answering, it will flip straight to a person who can talk to you, and actually not having to wait on the line maybe for 30 minutes for the call to be answered. You've started that journey with chatbot, but you can come out and speak to a person really quick, and will get there kind of quicker. So yeah, just spot on in terms of what you're saying. And yeah, it's all stuff that we're considering and working through. So thank you for raising those.
It's really encouraging to hear. Thank you very much.
Okay, I've just got a couple of questions to sort of mop up on that, really. On slides 2 and 4, we talk about there being over 60,000 households and 74,000 online accounts. So clearly there's more than one individual in some households that have online accounts. You can have lots of different ones. But I'm wondering, do we know how many households have no online accounts? So those would be the people we've been talking about who prefer a face-to-face or a paper contact. Do we know how many households there are?
No, we haven't got that information at the moment. And exactly as you said, Chair, some households will have more than one account, so it's quite difficult. On the kind of face of it, it looks as if every household in Powys has got an account, but like, you know, if a couple of people in the household's got an account. So we don't know that information, but I mentioned earlier that I'm really key, and it's something we're starting off now, is a review of that My Powys account. I don't think we're utilising it the best way that we can. And actually, even though we do have feedback on that, we really want to get further feedback on that. So in the next couple of months, we'll be capturing a lot more information about those accounts, how people use them, how often they use them, and actually what else they might want to use the account for as well, that we can build and add on to that as well.
Yeah, that's very good. And then really, I know these points have been made, but under slide 7, the slide there, engagement and communication. Obviously, these slides are giving us the ambition of the council, aren't they? Our aims and ambitions. But of course, we're not always going to be able to meet what customers' expectation is. So I just want some assurance that we can be honest with people and say, well, no, actually, we can't deliver that in that way. So sort of that they're realistic as well. And that kind of links with slide 8, really, in a way, where it says that place was the strongest. And I'm just curious, what does that tell you? So what are customers telling you when was it 97% where they were judging which of those was the most important to them? Place was the strongest. Principle, 97% of people felt that was the most important thing. So what is that telling you, really?
Okay. If I come in, if that's okay, Chair?
Yeah.
And Helen? Yeah, no, I think in terms of your point about for customers to be aware of what, if it's something that we can't do, how do we get that message across? And I think it's a flip of making sure that our residents are clear on the expectations. So if they do know what they are to expect when they either walk through the door or pick up the phone or go online, they're very clear on what they're going to expect from that and how we're going to interact with them. It kind of clears up that what it is that we don't do, if you know, it's that kind of flip side of that. And I think the clarification of what they can expect has been a bit blurred, especially we talked about in terms of the buildings, you know, what do they expect if they turn up? Can they still be seen? Well, no, they can't. It's changed to the library. And so that's that bit of work and making sure that we're very clear.
Yeah.
In terms of the places one, which came out the highest principle, which I think was around, and Helen, you might need to come here, about residents knowing how to access services and also choosing a way that they want to access services as well. So me as a resident in Powys, the two most important things to me is knowing what services I can and actually how can I do it. You know, I would be the person who would probably do stuff at 1 o'clock at night time in bed because that's the time I've got. So actually knowing for our kind of residents, the highest one was they were saying we need to actually know what's out there, which really aligns to objective 1 in our corporate plan in terms of being aware of the services that Powys offer. And then secondly as well, being able to kind of choose in terms of how they can do that, whether it's walking through the door, whether it's online, whether it's over the phone. So yeah, it's one of the ones that I would have thought would have come up the highest because hopefully everybody on this call would want those two things as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right. But the key thing for me, that the last sentence there says in a way of their choosing. And we're hearing here that a lot of people are still choosing that in person, that face to face. And that's not necessarily possible, is it, in every region and area? And under Sustainable Powys with the 4 hub models, that's going to be less likely. So really, all I'm saying to you is that we need to be absolutely honest. And whilst it's great to have this, and there's clearly a lot of work gone into this, I congratulate you all in the work gone in here. But I do think we need some honesty there about, you know, is it actually going to be in a way of your choosing? Well, quite possibly not. And we need to communicate that correctly, as Rafe and Graham have already highlighted. But yeah, thank you very much for that. I've got no more hands up. Councillor Bryan or Councillor Coroner, did you have any additional comments to make there? You happy with what you've heard?
No, happy at the moment.
Excellent. Councillor Coroner, you've got your hand up.
I just will add, I just seen on my phone
Sorry,
that
Brian.
the message come in that Built Library is closed on Monday the 22nd and every day for the rest of the week at 1 o'clock. So that doesn't help things, does it?
No.
So I don't know we got anybody from library service here today, Brian, but yes, I guess that's a localized issue, I suppose, isn't it?
It's localized, but that's the contact point for those who want to verbally go in and speak. Can't do it.
Yeah. I think Ellen, you could take that on board. Go on, Coroner.
No, I was just going to say that 10 years ago as a customer services officer in library service in Herefordshire. So yeah, the queries, so I could stamp books and tell people about their council tax. And I'm glad, I would say that about a quarter of the people that came to the library weren't digitally literate. I know that was 10 years ago, but I think they're still with us. So I would, you know, what Rafe said about in-person contact, I think is quite valid. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you, Coroner. There we are, Ellen. I think we've made that sort of message really. And I think you've recognised that, haven't you? So thank you for that.
Definitely. Yeah.
So there are no further comments there, no further hands up. So I want to thank you, Ellen and Helen, for delivering that for us. Very interesting.
Thank you very much for kind of giving us the time and for the feedback as well. Thank you.
Thank you both. Okay, so we move on. Item 7 on our agenda is the mobile broadband connectivity roundup, and we have with us here today Andrea Mansfield. Welcome, Andrea. Andrea is our economic development lead for regeneration, and in our paper pack we're on pages 23 to 34.
Thank you, Chair.
Over to you.
Would you like me to share my presentation?
Lovely, Andrea. Yes, thank you very much. Lovely. Yep, we can see that. Thank you, Andrea.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everybody. Good morning. Today I'm going to be talking to you, giving you a brief update with regards to digital connectivity within Powys and also sort of the region of Mid Wales. What I'm going to be covering is a little bit about where we are now, so the current position, talking about the current Powys projects that are ongoing at the moment, then talking about the regional projects that we're working on with Ceredigion County Council, the challenges that the sort of the projects are entailing, and then finally kind of what the next steps are. So that's what I'll be covering briefly today.
Lovely, thank you.
So first of all, the current position. It's been a hugely frustrating position for a lot of our residents within Powys for a number of different reasons. We are moving forward with connectivity and moving towards full fibre connection and also super fast fibre connection for many residents. However, this certainly isn't going as and as smoothly and as quickly as we'd originally hoped. The demise of Broadway Partners had an impact on many different communities and also on projects that we were working with them from a council perspective. So we are moving forward, and there is some good news to come, which I'll talk about in the following slides. But I appreciate there has it certainly hasn't been moving as quickly as people would hoped. But hopefully you'll see now that that there is good news to come. With regards to the current programmes that we're working on for Powys, we're currently working on the local broadband fund. The company originally that was working on this project was Broadway Partners, so this has been in the moving sort of for 3 years. However, it was resubmit through procurement once Broadway shut down, and it's now actually being delivered by Openreach. So this is ongoing at the moment. Build has started in many different regions. We're connecting 165 very hard to reach premises throughout Powys. The map on the right shows a very sort of loose area of where they are. And the build will be complete by March 2025. The key thing to note here with this fund is that although 165 premises sort of seems like a low figure, what this is doing is it's connecting very hard to reach premises, which ultimately means that fibre is getting further and further sort of out within our rural communities. So it is really positive from a Powys perspective, and it will make a big impact on those areas. We're also working with Vineus. So Vineus are alternative provider sort of to Openreach, one of sort of the biggest sort of players within the county after Openreach, and they're working on a full fibre and gigabit wireless access programme. So what this means is that they're trying to deliver full fibre actually building into local communities, but then what they're then trying to do is they're looking at other programmes then where they're putting in this gigabit wireless activity to actually bounce the signal from that fibre build further afield. So again, trying to look at some of our more rural communities and our rural properties that maybe built-in fibre isn't an option. So again, that's currently sort of being looked at for 12,000 rural properties within Powys. We're looking at an open access agreement with Vineus, so effectively that's being discussed at the moment to be able to utilise street furniture and also within those towns and villages to basically use those use that street furniture to utilise this this wireless technology. So again, that will give us more opportunities to try to reach the properties that are quite isolated. We're also working with Openreach. Openreach have got quite a number of commercial build schemes that they're delivering at the moment within the county. We've got 7 schemes that were the original voucher schemes that were due to be delivered by Broadway. They were picked up by Openreach, and we've currently got 3 in build. And then a further 4 that are currently being pledged at the moment all due to commence build very shortly. So they're all have reached the minimum pledge limits, and they'll be being built imminently. Again, just adding that fibre network out further and further. The next initiative that Powys are delivering as a council ourselves is the town centre Wi-Fi access scheme. So we're actually got 7 town centres that are already delivering this scheme, but then we'll have a total of 13 in total. This is a great system for towns from a visitor perspective, as well as the people actually within the town itself. It's adding additional open resource for businesses, for communities, for third sector, and obviously, as I say, the visitors that are actually going into these towns. So it enables people to log on to the Wi-Fi network. So if they've not got huge amounts of data, for example, or the coverage in that area isn't particularly strong, it just allows them to access the facilities that they need. The information on the right shows the towns that are either installed already or are currently sort of under build. The final 3 towns, says another town for the last 3. We're actually in discussion now with Llanfachlin, Builthwells, and also Talgarth to actually implement those towns as our final tranche. This funding has been provided by Transforming Towns, but also a successful Shared Prosperity Fund bids. So the reason why we've made the decision about where those towns, those town centres are actually placed is based on the sustainable Powys model, so related to place-based planning. So the map on screen now shows our different localities. So with the installation of Llanfachlin, Builthwells and Talgarth, that'll provide coverage throughout those localities. And then the next steps for us as a team will be to look at further funding streams then to make sure that we can connect the final 4 towns within those localities to make sure that we've got even coverage throughout the county. Okay, so the next steps, this is related to huge projects that are being delivered through Building Digital UK. So this is the UK government stream of digital. So at the moment, to move the connectivity forward, Project Gigabit is currently in procurement, and this is a project to connect 45,000 premises across Wales, but predominantly 14,000 across Mid Wales. This is going through procurement with the UK government, and a decision will be made on the final supplier by the end of autumn. So we're hoping that by the end of summer. So we're hoping that by autumn we'll have an update as to who that successful applicant has been. Openreach have made it very clear that they're very, very interested in this project. So and they've put that out into the press. So we're hoping that the winning bidder will be announced early autumn. The objective of Project Gigabit is to connect a minimum of 80% of properties that have been put forward for that bid. So what we'll then do as a local team is then look at the final 20% that may not be connected through this supplier. So then we'll be looking at the next steps to ensure that nobody will be left behind. So ultimately 80% will be picked up by Project Gigabit, and then the additional 20%, the further 20% will be picked up in other ways. Those ways will be through, those ways will be picked up through working really closely with Ceredigion and also with Openreach. We'll be looking then at very hard to reach premises and ensuring that they have got an opportunity to connect. So the way that we're going to do this is through a number of different ways. The first one is I've lost my slide. The first one is through the Wales Welsh Government prior information notice, they have got a 71 million underspend from Smart Cymru broadband initiative that was delivered through British Telecom, sort of completed at the end of last year. They've still got 71 million that has been kept ring-fenced for further development in digital. So once the Project Gigabit procurement is finalised, they will then look at how they can use some of this PIN money to make sure that the other 20% that are not covered by Gigabit will be connected. We've also got the Grow Mid Wales initiatives here, as shown on the screen. So Grow Mid Wales have a budget of £10.6 million that they've got in their digital work stream. So at the moment, they're looking at a couple of different initiatives here. One is a Streetwave, which is a mobile reporting device. And what this is, it's really interesting in the fact that they've got devices that have been connected to the refuse trucks in both Powys and Ceredigion. And what this is doing is they're driving around the county and they're actually mapping mobile connectivity accurately. So what a lot of the mobile network operators, so O2, EE, Vodafone, etc., they state that there is a certain coverage within each area. However, this isn't always correct. So what this project is doing is showing us accurate data within Powys as to what is being covered by these mobile networks. So what this will do then is it'll allow us to identify where we've really got some spots that have no mobile coverage at all. And it just means then that will be a way forward in utilising some of this Grow Mid Wales funding to ensure that we lobby and we make sure that the mobile network operators are doing work where we need it. There's also work going on with business parks within Powys and Ceredigion. So again, ensuring that there's a focus there to ensure that they've got full fibre connectivity. The works there are being completed at the moment, so the findings are being analysed, and then it will mean then that we can look at where we again need to put those resources. So the final slide is really just to look at the challenges that we have as a county. We've got some very the topography of the area makes it difficult to install the networks and the poles, etc. We've also got a lot of the exchanges are outdated and they need updating from an Openreach and BT perspective. But it is all being looked at, and there is significant progress being made. So we do want to make sure that we obviously utilise any opportunity, so sort of nothing is being left unturned, really. Going back to sort of the previous presentation, we're wanting to work with our residents as well, because we're trying to secure funding to go out to do sort of workshops around the county to look at the technology available to make individual networks within properties better, with routers and boosters, etc. Just making sure that people understand fully what potentially, if there's little small measures that might be able to help, we're looking at ways that we can go out to share that messaging. Okay, so to summarise the slides that I've just talked about, procurement will be finalised with Project Gigabit by the end of July, sort of August. That supplier will be looking at connecting 14,000 properties within Powys. The 20% of those properties that will be excluded will be working with Welsh Government to utilise the PIN money that they've got. Again, that's just to make that you aware that 71 million does cover the whole of Wales. So that isn't just dedicated to sort of our Mid Wales region. Once that's been completed, the Grow Mid Wales digital workstream will then look at any kind of fallout from there. Streetwave data will be instrumental in moving forward the mobile network, And finally, we'll be working closely with Welsh and UK government to look at any new technology that might come into play, just to make sure that we've got the best connectivity that we can possibly have within our county. So thank you.
Lovely, Andrea. Thank you very much. If I could ask you to stop sharing your screen, that's it. Lovely. So I can see everybody's lovely faces again. And I open the floor to members for any questions there for Andrea. Okay, so Councillor Chloe.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation as well. This is something I don't know that much about, so I have questions might be a bit basic. I was kind of interested to hear about the projects with, OpenReach and various other providers. What, I'm sure everyone else knows this, but just for me, can you clarify what's the council's role in this? Is this council money that is being paid to private companies like BT and OpenReach to deliver these schemes across Powys, or does this funding come through from somewhere else through the council down to these organisations? So that was my first question, just a bit of clarification around that, because I just don't understand. And then the other one I wanted to ask was around the town centre Wi-Fi access, just to get a timeline for that. And I apologise if I missed that, but just to know when these ongoing installations will be completed and when that third tranche of towns, I know they've not been decided yet, but when the plan is for them to be finished as well, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. If, I can answer those questions, Councillor Chloe. So with regards to the funding that's coming through, none of it is council funds. None of it is our own council funds. It's a combination of different funding streams. So the local broadband fund, for example, which is being built at the moment, that was a successful bid that the council did put into Welsh Government. So that funding's been provided by Welsh Government. The Project Gigabit work, that is being funded by UK government. So all of that, that was part of sort of their building digital initiatives. So that particular Project Gigabit is being funded by UK government. So there's none of the funding that is being utilised to put these networks in is coming from council, from council money. So does that answer that question, Councillor Chloe?
Yeah, I mean, that's great to see the council's being proactive and bringing money in to get this done. That was my main points. Yeah, so thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then the town centre Wi-Fi. So the town centre Wi-Fi, basically the way that we're working with the town centre Wi-Fi is that we're working to get these networks installed as quickly as possible. So we do inception meetings within the towns, and then it's a case of finding the right premises to mount the access points for each of the digital providers. So basically it provides a network of say 6 or 7 different routers around the town, which then gives you the coverage. So the only sort of timescale is how long it takes us to get those agreements signed. So we're working as quickly as we possibly can. So we're hoping that the 3 that are ongoing in Crickhowell, Hay and Welshpool, they'll be installed literally within the next, we're hoping by the end of the summer. And then the next 3 towns that we're in discussion with at the moment, as soon as those discussions are finalised, we'll have the inception meetings. And again, we're ready to go with the installations. It's just getting those agreements signed. So we're working very proactively with the digital champions within those towns, but they should be, we'll definitely have everything installed by December at the very latest, because the funding has been provided by the Shared Prosperity Fund. So ultimately that's our final deadline, but we're hoping to get things in place much before then.
Okay, thank you. That's good to know.
Lovely, thank you very much. Councillor Coroner.
I live in one of the unconnected communities, so I don't have mobile coverage exactly where I live. I've got fibre to my home, but a mile away, a gentleman on the main road through which fibre, he goes right past his home, but he's been quoted 300,000 by OpenReach in the last 3 years for connection. In actual fact, more recently, he was quoted £730, which he paid. He is now connected. The complete mess in my area, which is the area of Bagaldi in the Team Valley. I mean, I don't know if Redder is similar. All these different schemes. I was going to ask a particular question about mobile mast. So there was an emergency mast which has been converted to an EE mast in the last couple of months up the Bagaldi Valley. Does that preclude some people getting fibre to their property in that Welsh Government grants won't be available? And the other question is that smart meter people aren't recognising this mast. Yes, they're not recognised by electric companies. What can be done about that? Thank you very much.
With the Shared Rural Network is working on the masts at the moment, so they're looking at how we can make sure that the coverage is adequate for different communities. It's not, if I'm completely honest, Councillor Carina, it's not an area that I have specialist knowledge in, but I can certainly take those queries away and get those answers to you. Going back to sort of with your point sort of at the beginning with regards to the fact that you have fibre and the gentleman down the road doesn't, it's a very common theme, unfortunately, with the way that a lot of the installations have been done sort of previously by various different providers. So that's something that Project Gigabit is very aware of, and we are working really closely with Building Digital UK, and also once the supplier has been awarded, we'll be working very closely with them with regards to supporting the individual premises and making sure that the mapping is accurate, so that we're picking up any anomalies such as this, so we're not going to be in the same position going forward. So I hope that answers the first question, but I will take away with regards to the mast. If it is a temporary mast, so the Project Gigabit connectivity is completely separate to the mobile connectivity. So that is literally looking specifically at fibre and built fibre. But I will take away the mast query, and I'll certainly come back to you on that if that's okay.
That would be great. Thanks very much.
Lovely. Thank you. Councillor Gary.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, actually, I'll touch on the shared rural network, but just to make sure that your team are aware of the emergency services improvement mast scheme on their move from airwaves to digital, and I am told that that's progressing. It's behind schedule many years, but it's getting there, and we're nearly there. And they are aiming for 99% coverage in digital mobile phone technology across the whole of Wales and the whole of England. And I guess I've just got that slight fear if that technology does deliver, almost every single home in our rural neighbourhoods will have some form of mobile digital connectivity. And I guess, yeah, for me, it's just about making sure that we're really targeting the investment that we need to target in the right place, knowing what's coming down the line in other services, so we're not providing a fibre connection for them to get a 5G signal 6 months later. So that was just one point. I've got a slight question over the gigabit sort of scheme, if that comes on board and starts being delivered. And it was just one confusion, firstly, over the figure. So we're looking at potentially 14,000 homes. Is that 14,000 homes the ones that are being considered? And out of that, we have to take 20% off the number that might get a fibre connection, so it drops by 3,000 or so? Or is the 14,000 the number that we're aiming to connect in the first part of the question?
The 14,000 is the number of premises within Mid Wales that are actually in the procurement bid. So that's what's in the bid at the moment. So, I mean, in an ideal world, they will the supplier will come back to say, yeah, they'll do the mapping and we'll connect the full 14,000. So there is a proviso built into the scheme that says that they have to, as a minimum, connect 80%. So yes, so it's the 14,000 is the number of premises that are in the bid at the moment, Councillor Gary.
Okay, thank you. And if I may, Chair, just then to follow on with my confusion, in your presentation, we've shared some figures over percentages of properties, I assume, that can receive both fibre and above 30 megabits per second. And we're showing in those figures 50% of all of the properties are already receiving full fibre to the property. But just doing my maths, 14,000 homes out of 60 odd thousand homes is 20%. So yeah, I guess I'm struggling with percentages versus actual figures. Do we know how many properties don't receive a fibre connection or over that 30 megabits per second connection that I guess is our aim?
We do. We have got that that data, so but I haven't got it to hand at the moment. But I can certainly again take that away and ensure that that's shared with the group. The exact figures of where we've got unique addresses for each property, so we can do all of that mapping. So I can certainly get that information, definitely.
Great. Yeah. Or just if we're putting it into a report, let's either do it all by percentages or all by.
No, I
numbers.
understand, of course.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Very helpful.
Thank you, Councillor Gary. Well, I mean, I have to admit, Andrea, that this is slight double Dutch to me because technology is not my strong point there. I'd like to switch something on and it works, but I'm aware of a little bit of this because you talked earlier about the pledge limits and the numbers, and my town was one that failed to sort of get the required number of people to sign up to the original schemes. I know, Councillor Brian, you were working in your area and there was a group here in Mid Wales trying to sort of get this scheme going, and I think Bilf has succeeded and Llanuted Wells did. But in my area it's quite difficult because the town centre, half the town has fibre broadband, but actually it's very patchy in the town itself, and the rural parts of my ward, like the area Ellen Valley where I am and Clarewin Valley, I mean, we don't even have mains electricity, so we certainly don't have mobile connectivity or anything else, but we seem to fall through the gap with every one of these schemes, and that's a little bit frustrating, and I'm sure there are other areas across Powys in the same situation. When I'm looking at these slides, the one about the gigabyte, I don't know what that means, but anyway, it sounds like it's connectivity. I can see there are blue dots for the Ellen Valley area, so I'm taking that's a good news story. Possibly something's going to happen. And I am aware that, well, we used to have a mobile mast actually in the Ellen Valley when it was Orange, but when Orange changed to everything everywhere, it turned out it was everything everywhere except in our area because they turned it off. But I believe now there's some work and that may be going on. And I wonder if that's connected to Councillor Gary's point for the shared network for the emergency services. I think that may be where that's coming. So I'm just wondering what Powys's role is in for areas like mine that keep falling through here on meeting the targets and number requirements. And is there hope for the very rural areas like mine that miss out?
There is, and there is hope, certainly. I don't think that previously there's been it's been a huge amount of joined up thinking from all areas. So ultimately, the way that the next steps now, Project Gigabit will include will include all premises, and ultimately they're looking at a solution for all really, and whether that is part of Project Gigabit, whether that's part of the Welsh Government Smart Cymru funding, or ultimately it's part of the Growing Mid Wales 10.6 million that they've got. Ultimately, every premises will be looked at within one of those schemes. So it's been hugely frustrating for a lot of communities, particularly, as you say, with the if they can't get pledges, if you've got half of the village that has got fibre, so they're not kind of interested. This will kind of take away those issues, because you'll be looking at every individual premises to make sure that they've got an option, and a fair option, so that they're not paying significantly higher than somebody down the road, for example. So that's the first point, Chair. The second point, with regards to the shared rural network. So the shared rural network is looking, as Councillor Gary mentioned, at masts, and basically making sure that we have got this coverage of like you say, 98% coverage from a mobile network provider. one of the reasons why we're doing this street wave work is because what we're wanting to ensure is that the data that the mobile providers are giving is accurate, because what they're saying is in some areas, oh, what are you worried about? You've got coverage in this area, and actually when you look at it, it's either not sufficient, no, you wouldn't be able to make a phone call, never mind do anything else. So we're gathering this data to make sure that we've got accurate data to be able to put forward for this particular development. But the Welsh Government and Builder Digital UK are working together with the Shared Rural Network. So as Councillor Gary alluded to, let's not do this in silo. They are working together so that we're making sure that ultimately the final aim is that we've got coverage, well, as much coverage as we possibly can across the whole area.
Yeah, no, that's really good, and the point you made there, fair access at a fair price, really, isn't it? Because some of us are paying a lot of money for a private, satellite, whatever. That's not possible for everybody, is it? So that leaves them isolated. Councillor Gary, you've got your hand up again.
Yeah, no, thanks, Chair. I was just going to come back in on a point around the pledges. So I, with others, worked hard in our community to try and get as many pledges as we could, and we were successful in meeting the threshold, but only just. Partly same reasons Angela raised. There was already quite good connectivity in some areas, but also it was really hard to work out which properties were or weren't connected. But on speaking to people, they were generally fearful of making a pledge because the terms and conditions were quite onerous and a potential risk £4,500 cost to you if you don't switch supplier. And people are saying, well, I've just signed up for another 12 months to my supplier and I've got a penalty clause. So it's quite a difficult ask to many. I think people eventually made the pledges and hope it all works out. But I think, just moving away from that. And definitely, I think in some of our areas, we know it's going to be physically just impossible or just too costly to get fibre to some of our properties. And I don't want to name too many companies, but Starlink absolutely delivers in any single place around the world. You can get it out of a briefcase and turn it on and it does its thing, or you can stick it on your roof and it does its thing. And at the moment, quite a few of my residents have to go down that route because it works, it's there, and they don't like the news that we keep sharing that we'll get to you eventually and we'll come at some point and it will work, please promise. So I think we have to look at the options that are there for people that we know are going to be a long way down that line or never get it, and see if we can support them to offset some of the costs. I know some of it is applicable under the Welsh Government capital infrastructure elements of the grants, but the ongoing monthly fees that you might pay aren't anywhere as far as I can work out. So just whether there's some hybrid opportunities for those properties that we're never going to reach would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, you're absolutely spot on there, Gary. I wasn't going to name the provider, but quite right. Without that company, I wouldn't be here chairing this meeting now because we didn't have good enough broadband in any way. But Councillor Bryan, you know a bit about this from your ward, don't you?
I know a lot of people put a lot of effort in and got nowhere. It's just back to the going out in our refuse wagons. Obviously, we cover anybody living remotely and on a non-adopted highway has to fetch the rubbish to the highway. So the accuracy is not going to be really on the remote areas. It's going to be as far as the public highway. But as I say, it's all right to take that accuracy, but I think sometimes the people that are living half a mile off the public highway have to fetch it there. We haven't got that data.
No, or a mile and a half, Brian, in my case. So, but
Well,
I was going to make that point. So well done for getting in there first. Yeah, but I mean, it's a good step. It's a good step. At least it's collecting the data, isn't it, from down in the valley? So okay, it's a good point, Brian. Any other comments there, Councillor Carl? Your parts of your area are quite rural, so this is all good news to your ears, I should imagine, as well.
Yes, Chair. Hopefully see a bit more action in my ward. Got very a lot of black spots like many other wards, but hoping to see progress. A lot of it's covered already by BTs, but got those black spots. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Andrea. I think that's sort of quite a positive picture. I mean, I know it's not the sort of definite answer, but certainly working in the right direction, and you're doing a lot of work there. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, lovely. Okay, so now we move on to item 8 of the agenda, and this is the memorial safety policy. We're going to consider the revised memorial safety policy, and this is going to be presented by Gwilym Davis. He's Head of Planning and Regulatory Services, and we're on pages 35 to 60 of the agenda pack. So Gwilym, over to you. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair. Powys County Council has a duty of care for the safety of visitors to our cemeteries. To do this, we've adopted policy in 2006 called the Memorial Safety in Council Cemeteries Policy and Procedures. Now, we've recently, the service area has undertaken a review of that policy, and that's in the pack along with the policy dated 2006. The first 3 sections of the amended policy outlines the duty and responsibilities for the council in relation to health and safety, and the responsibilities for others in the cemetery, such as the memorial masons and the owners of the memorials. Then section 4 highlights a very important matter about ensuring that residents are aware of the safety works that are taking place within the cemeteries, and inspections and the potential work that has to take place to make them safe. This outlines that we're going to provide people with at least 28 days notice, and the methods of undertaking that, such as press release, placing notices, and also contacting local members and town and community councils. Section 5 in your pack highlights the procedures to be followed by the service area, such as compliance with certain standards outlined within section 5.1, and the fact that we will be undertaking this work by contracting inspections from appropriately trained companies. It also outlines a scope that we're not going to be inspecting memorials below 625 millimeters. This is because it's considered that the risk is low. It still is a risk associated, but the risk is low. There will be some exceptions to that element. Goes on saying that we will be putting the memorials into 3 categories. Category 1 would be unsafe and needs immediate action to make safe. Category 2, which is unstable but is unlikely to cause an immediate health and safety risk. Category 3, which is stable and no action required. Now, in section 6, we outline the actions to be taken for the memorials that come under category 1. The memorials will be laid down or made safe using other methods at the time of inspection. A notice will be placed upon memorials outlining that the temporary measures that have taken place and how to contact the council regarding the matter. In relation to category 2 memorials, which are unstable but unlikely to cause an immediate health and safety risk, there will be a notice placed upon those memorials outlining how to contact the council about the issues highlighted. And then if work doesn't take place within 6 months to make that memorial safe, then the council will be looking to make it safe ourselves. And then in relation to category 3 memorials, which are stable and no action required, then as I stated, no action will be undertaken. The policy then in section 9 outlines that all new memorials are to be constructed in line with set standards, as outlined in paragraph 9.1. And then from in paragraph 9.2, all memorial masons operating in Powys cemeteries will be required to be registered with the British Register of Accredited Memorial Masons or the National Association of Memorial Masons from the 1st of September 2025. So there is an implementation period allowed there. And finally, there's a commitment to reviewing the policy and procedures on a regular basis from the council. Thank you, Chair.
Lovely, thank you very much. So the new policy there being referred to, that's the July 2024 policy, and that was on pages 53 to 59. So members, do you have any questions for Gwilym on that? Councillor Rafe.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I've got no comments really on the policy. I think it makes complete sense to move to a three-tiered risk evaluation system. That makes complete sense. The only thing I would comment on, Gwilym, is the intention still to use the like the notices, the notice templates within the agenda pack that are dated issue 2 January 2006?
In relation to those notices, we weren't looking to put them as part of this policy because various contractors have got different notices that they place upon the memorials. But that said, it's something that we could do to say this basic information needs to be contained within the notices if Scrutiny consider that appropriate. We can outline those things.
Absolutely. The only comment I'd make is that it says, please contact the Council's Environmental Health Service as soon as possible at one of the following local offices, but obviously there's been changes there, hasn't there? So, you know, signposting will have to be reevaluated on that.
Yeah.
Sorry, can I just check your answer there? So the posters that are put on the headstones could be different posters, depending. I think I misunderstood what you meant there. So if you come to Raider Cemetery, for example, and there's an unstable gravestone, you want to put that notice on, depending who's done the work, there could be a different poster. Is it not going to be standardised across Powys?
We'd look to agree what information is contained within the notice or the poster, but different companies, I've been advised different companies got different notices with the same information, but slightly different. So we haven't put a standard notice in there, but what we could do is put down what information that notice has to have contained so that there is standard information within them.
Okay.
Sorry, Gwilym, do you want me to? Can I just come in there, Gwilym?
Yes, Cadwyn, yes, please do.
Excuse me. We did a similar one in recently with stones over 1.5 meters. Essentially, that poster, or it's a poster that goes, notice that goes on each cemetery. They are all standardised. That one from 2006 is obviously from before we've amalgamated. We've only got at that time we had 3 area officers. The cemeteries come under myself, and we've got the one notice. Obviously, anything comes to me. So yeah, they are all standardised now. So, but they'd be appropriate for the location.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, Councillor Gary, you got your hand up.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Gwilym. I mean, yeah, it looks relatively straightforward. Perhaps I've got a couple of questions, but one was just pointing out a slight concern in the policy just on perhaps review period. The original policy was created 2003, amended in 2016, and then seems to have disappeared. And we're about to effectively put some amendments in now, but it does clearly say at the bottom of the policy, we'll regularly review it. What I can't see in there is, does it get reviewed? So should we be adding review dates, even if we're not amending them? That's fine, because if I can see that a policy's been reviewed every 3 or 4 years and it doesn't need any amendments, then I don't have any issues. But if we haven't looked at it for 18 years, then gosh, even some of those legislative acts could be quite out of date. Are we current practice? And obviously, if something were to happen in a cemetery, and first thing somebody's going to say, when did you last look at your policy? I just don't think we're showing it in the policy. Hopefully it's been done. So that was one point. Doesn't necessarily need an answer, Gwilym, unless you want to come back on that one.
I think that's rational, what you stated there. Put in a period, say 5 years, for the policy to be reviewed is something that we can add easily, yes. Thank you.
Yeah, and just a stamp on it saying when it was reviewed would be helpful for when it comes back around next time. Thank you. Yeah. But my question was really around, I don't really have a clue how many cemeteries we have responsibilities for, and therefore obviously doing these reviews of monuments is important, but I don't understand how long it takes, how big a team who does it, even within ours. And I know we've got a busy agenda, but that was one thing about how many do we have responsibility over, and I assume then those that we don't have responsibility over, the owners have the responsibility. But where's the safety aspects of cemeteries that are no longer operational, the church is long gone, and they're effectively abandoned sites? Certainly got plenty in my ward that are still well visited and used, but there is no management of those sites whatsoever. They're more people of interest just having a nose around a really old cemetery. Do we have any responsibility over that or duty?
In relation to cemeteries, we've got 20 cemeteries. I keep on wanting to say 19, but we've just opened one in Machynlleth, so it is 20. And just give you some rough numbers. Between 625 mil and 1.5 meters, we got around 8,000 memorials. Below 625 millimeters, we've got about 1,200. Then above 1.5 meters, we got around 2,225 memorials. So that's about the scope. We've already undertaken the review or assessments of the ones over 1.5 meters because they are the highest risk memorials. What we've got left now is the ones between 625 and 1.5 meters. We're looking to do that work over the next 2 years. Yeah, and in relation to memorials contained within other cemeteries outside of the council's ownership, then my understanding that will be the responsibilities of the landowner in order to ensure that they are safe for any visitors to that property.
Thank you. So we're sort of saying we've got, in my simple maths, 10,000-ish monuments that we need to be more concerned about, those that are above that 600 mil level, and it sort of takes us a couple of years to get around the assessments, but we're saying we're going to do those assessments every 5 years, so it's effectively a fairly rolling program of operations. If it takes us 2 years to get around them, then you get a few years break and you come around to them again. Is that how it sort of works?
Yes, budget permitting, it will be that kind of rolling program.
Okay, thank you.
So I had a question just to expand on that, because that was my next point, Gary, was the scale of the work. So we are only responsible for Powys County Council run or maintained cemeteries. What's the oldest cemetery? So I'm wondering, what is the oldest grave in Powys that the local authority, because obviously churches and chapels, it could be hundreds of years old, and those monuments therefore are potentially more wobbly. I just wonder, what's the oldest cemetery and therefore the oldest grave in a council maintained or run cemetery?
I'm going to ask Carwyn whether he knows that information.
So when was the first cemetery opened, I guess, is the question, isn't it?
The oldest ones would probably be, you've got Brecon and Nanthy and Oddfellows.
As in age, as opposed to location, really, I suppose.
Yeah, those would be the oldest. Nanthy and Oddfellows. Oddfellows was opened as a philanthropist, Mr. Oddfellow. He did it for miners' wives that couldn't afford burials. That's been closed for decades. Crossley is the same. And then in the north, Newtown, we've got maps going back to about 1888, 1890.
Okay, so that is much older than I thought. I was guessing maybe, the 1950s or something, council cemetery. So no, so
no,
they are older. Yeah, okay.
They probably be a number were adopted by other cemetery boards, community councils, town councils, so on, through time. Certainly in 74 and 96, when reorgs, we adopted a number at that time.
Yeah, okay. And so my other question then really is how big is the risk really? And how is it measured? Is there a risk at all? Okay. Has anybody ever actually been harmed from a
there's unfortunately every year there's newspaper articles about people dying in cemeteries, so there is a real risk here. The biggest risk is the larger memorials, which we've already undertaken. They're over 1.5 meters, but those under 1.5 meters still pose a risk and can kill people. So we have to ensure that we undertake the relevant risk assessments and ensure the safety of visitors of the cemeteries.
Excellent, thank you. Councillor Carl.
Thank you, Chair. Just a bit of context. Llandinham, I know, is not a council graveyard, but we have a gravestone there from 1729, I think it is. Llandinham used to be the mother church, well, is the mother church to all the churches from Newtown to Llanidloes.
There we are. Yeah, there we are. Oh, that's really interesting. Anyway, thank you very much. I think any more? Oh, there we are. Councillor Richard Church, would you like to come in?
Yeah, thank you, Angela. If you'll allow me to, first of all, could I say thank you to the committee for reviewing this policy? It's been very helpful. It's a decision which will ultimately come back to me as the portfolio holder, and as I think a lot of you have said, the policy looks straightforward. The problem is that this could be a very sensitive issue for people who visit a cemetery, perhaps haven't visited their loved one's grave for some time, and find this poster stuck on it, telling them that it needs to be made safe, or even worse, they come and find that it's been laid down and they were completely unaware of it. And I am aware that when the church in Wales have gone through this exercise in some of their own graveyards, and particularly this happened in Welshpool, that they did attract some quite considerably adverse publicity for the way they handled it. And I think it is really important, not just that we get the policy right, but that we make sure that we communicate the policy and what's happening as widely as we can. So I do urge you, please, as councillors, when it comes to the cemetery in your area, that you do publicise the fact that this is happening, encourage the local community councils to do so as well, because it is an issue which could be very sensitive for certain people. So I just thank you for reviewing it and look forward to your support in the process of implementing it in the coming months.
Well, thank you, Councillor Richard. You've actually stole my thunder there, because in capital letters at the bottom here, and we discussed it in our pre-meeting, we talked about how important that communication would be. And we did note that we were pleased to see that in amongst the list of social media and press and notices on the cemetery grates, that there was a note there that Powys County Council would let the local councillor and local community councillors know, because we felt there was a role for us in putting up posters and letting our communities know, to avoid that shock, as you say, this very sensitive issue. So I'm pleased that you've recognised that as well. And I think that is really, really crucial and important. So thank you for that. So if there are no more comments, thank you, Gwilym, for that. I think we've set or note the policy, the changes in the policy. And I think if we can, we'd make that recommendation that you do write in the policy that it will be reviewed every 5 years, and that we just really want to underline that communication issue because of the sensitivity of the policy. But thank you very much for explaining this. Okay, if everybody's happy with that, we'll move on. So the next item, item 9, the asset management policy. I've got a note from the monitoring officer. I'm going to make the decision to move this item to the end of our meeting, so move it down after item 11. And I'm just going to read the monitoring officer's comments here, which should explain why I'm going to do that. So item 9, the asset management policy. The the monitoring officer has determined that category 3 of the access to information procedure rules apply to the following items. His views on the public interest test, having taken account of the provision of rule 14.8 of the council's access to information rules, was that to make this information public would disclose information relating to the financial or business affairs of any particular person, including the authority holding that information. These factors, in his view, outweigh the public interest in disclosing this information. Members are asked to consider these factors when determining the public interest test, which they must decide when considering to exclude the public from part of the meeting. So I'm going to move this item to the end of our agenda today, and there will be a question during this session on the cost of this policy, and it is for that reason then we will be requesting to go into confidential session. I just want members' agreement that they're happy with that. Lovely. Thank you very much. In that case, we move on now to item 10, which was our scrutiny recommendations. So here, I just want to note again, so here we are on item 10 on our agenda, and this was the scrutiny recommendations from the Joint Scrutiny Working Group of the Leisure Review. And as previously mentioned there, the purpose of this working group was to examine, scrutinise and seek assurance on the effectiveness and impact of the working group processes for the Leisure Review and not the Leisure Review itself. So Councillor Gareth E. Jones, Vice Chair of Health and Care Scrutiny, chaired this working group for us, and at the end of that group there were some recommendations put forward to Cabinet, and this report here is just coming back to us to inform us that one of those recommendations was fully accepted and 2 were partially accepted. So that's just for us to note. I don't know if members have any comment on that. No, lovely. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the working forward work programme. And you can see from our agenda there that we've got a meeting booked for this Friday, the 19th of July, and we're going to be looking at the car park review, the outcome of that review that's been undertaken. And on the 9th of September, we're going to be looking at 4 weekly bin collection, a proposal being put forward there, and the asset management policy, which will include the farm estate review. Okay, so that's just for noting. And now we'll go back then to Councillor Gwilym, who is going to bring us some information about the asset management policy.
Bear with me, Chair. I'll just exclude the meeting for the public. Okay.
Thank you, Rachel.